the most gorgeous boy in our school, slid a signed Taylor Swift vinyl across the cafeteria table and asked me to teach him Japanese because he'd lied about living in Tokyo to impress the exchange student. The most gorgeous boy in our school, Parker, slid a signed Taylor Swift vinyl across the cafeteria table and asked me, "So can you teach me Japanese?" I nearly choked on my apple juice. Parker was the guy every girl wanted. Soccer captain, perfect smile, the kind of handsome that made teachers forget what they were saying mid-sentence. And he was talking to me, the girl who spent lunch reading. "Why do you need Japanese?" I told Akira I lived in Tokyo for a year. He rubbed his neck. Stupid first day lie. Now she keeps speaking Japanese to me and I just nod like I understand. Akira Suzuki, of course, the exchange student who'd basically become our school's Akiran character. She had Disney princess eyes and a smile that made every guy melt. Her cousin's birthday party is in 3 weeks. She invited me. He pushed the vinyl closer. "This is signed. From the Eras Tour. It's yours if you help me." His brown eyes actually looked panicked. "She's not like other girls. She cares about real things. I can't mess this up." I held the vinyl up to the light to examine it. Pen pressure. Check. Letter spacing. Check. It really was an authentic signature. "You got yourself a deal," I exclaimed. First lesson, Parker showed up with coffee and color-coded notebooks. Adorable. "Okay, basics first," I said. "Konnichiwa, genki desu ka?" "No," he leaned forward. "Teach me how to flirt in Japanese, how to not sound like a tourist. I want to talk to her about things she cares about." That was sweet. I'd expected him to want cheesy pickup lines. "Let's start with pronunciation. Say Akira." "Akira." "No, you need to soften the R, like this. Akira." He tried again. Failed. I sighed. "Here." I took his hand and placed it on my throat, ignoring how my pulse jumped. "Feel how gentle it is?" "Akira." His fingers spread against my neck. "Akira," he whispered, and suddenly the room felt too small. "Better." I stepped back. "Practice that." Something in my chest fluttered. "You're a really patient teacher," he said on Wednesday, after finally nailing a difficult phrase. "You're a good student." "Really?" He grinned, and I realized I'd never seen him truly smile before. Not the popular guy smile, a real one. By week 2, we'd moved past basics. I taught him haiku in his car after practice. He'd repeat lines about cherry blossoms while I tried not to notice how the sunset made his eyes look like honey. "What does this mean?" He showed me a line he'd found. "Kimi wo omuto, jikan mo basho mo wasurete shimau." When I think of you, I forget both time and place. My throat went dry. It means love makes you lose track of everything else. Huh, he stared at the words. That's beautiful. Thursday, we practiced traditional dance moves. I wasn't sure why, but he insisted that it would come in handy one day. Anything for a Taylor Swift signed vinyl, I guess. "I'm terrible at this." He laughed as he stepped on my foot again. "You're not." I adjusted his hand position. "Just follow my lead." His mom walked by his room and smiled at us. "Sorry about her," he said. "She thinks we're..." Never mind. "What?" "Nothing." But his ears turned red. The final week, something shifted. He'd text me Japanese puns late at night. Bring me mochi because I mentioned loving it once. Stay after our sessions just to talk, in English. "You know what's weird?" he said Tuesday night, lying on his bedroom floor while we studied. "I started this to impress Akira, but now I just really love the language." "Yeah? Yeah, like this." He sat up. "How do you say I lose track of time with you?" "Kimi to iruto, jikan wo wasurete shimau." He repeated it, looking right at me. The air went thick. That's good. Akira will like that." Right. Then came our last session. He was fluent enough to hold conversations, quote poetry, even make jokes. He'd learned an entire language in 3 weeks. "Let's do one final practice," he said. Full romantic confession. My stomach hurt. Okay. He took my hands. I tried to memorize the feeling. "Kimi to iruto, subete ga imi wo motsu. Kimi wa zutto boku no kokoro ni ita uta mitai da." When I'm with you, everything has meaning. You're like a song that was always in my heart. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't stop wishing those words were for me. "Perfect," I whispered. "You're going to sweep her off her feet." Something crossed his face. "You think Akira will feel it too?" How could she not? Friday. The whole school watched Parker approach Akira at her locker. I stood by the water fountain feeling sick. "Oh, hi you, Akira-san." "Genki?" "Good morning, Akira. How are you?" She turned, surprised. Then he started speaking the Japanese I'd taught him, and my heart shattered with every word. She laughed at our jokes, touched his arm when he quoted our poems, asked about Tokyo. "Nihongo ga juzu desu ne," she said. "Your Japanese is beautiful." "Arigatu. Isho ni bangohan wo tabemasen ka?" "Thanks, would you like to have dinner together?" "Zeihi. I'd love to." She kissed his cheek. Everyone cheered. I left before he could see me. He found me after school, glowing. She said, "Yes, this is all because of you." He hugged me tight. "You're incredible." I stood there like a statue until he let go. Monday, I was eating crackers in the library when Akira appeared. "You're the one who taught Parker Japanese?" I nodded. "I thought so." She smiled. "You know, the whole time I was teaching him about Tokyo restaurants, he kept asking what you'd think of them. When I mentioned a poetry reading, he said you'd love it. Everything circled back to you." I stared at her. Long pause. She adjusted her carabiner. "You know I'm gay, right?" I blinked. "What? The carabiner? The universal indicator for being gay?" She pointed to the rainbow one on her belt loop. "My girlfriend Yuki in Tokyo, who I literally never shut up about? Oh my gosh. The whole time I thought it was just her best friend or something." "Yeah," she laughed. "Parker's in the music room. You should probably go." I practically sprinted to the music room, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might actually burst out of my chest. The hallway seemed to stretch forever, and my sneakers squeaked against the linoleum with each desperate step. When I finally reached the door, I had to stop and catch my breath, hearing soft guitar music floating through the crack. I pushed open the door to find Parker sitting alone on one of those uncomfortable plastic chairs, his guitar in his lap, playing something that sounded both beautiful and incredibly sad. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, catching the dust motes in the air. He looked up when he heard the door, and I swear his whole face transformed when he saw me standing there. "You came," he said, setting his guitar down on the chair next to him like it suddenly didn't matter at all. "Akira told me everything," I managed to say between breaths, still winded winded from basically running across the entire school. Parker stood up and took a step toward me, then stopped, his hands hovering awkwardly at his sides like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to come closer. "I kept trying to tell you," he said, his voice cracking slightly, "but every time I started, you'd say something about how perfect we'd be together, me and Akira, and I couldn't figure out how to explain that I never wanted her. It was always you." "You learned an entire language in 3 weeks," I interrupted, needing him to understand that I finally got it. "Nobody does that for someone they barely know. Nobody stays after lessons just to talk. Nobody texts Japanese puns at midnight unless—" Parker's ears turned that familiar red, the same shade they'd been during our lessons when I'd adjust his hand position or lean in close to fix his pronunciation. He ran his hand through his hair, that nervous habit I'd memorized without meaning to. "It was never about Akira," he admitted, finally moving closer. "I mean, yeah, the stupid lie started it, but after that first lesson with you, God, I just wanted to keep having reasons to see you. You're the only person who looks at me and sees more than just the soccer captain. You see me." "I thought I was just your tutor," I said, my voice shaking. "I thought I was invisible to you except for those 3 weeks." Parker reached out and took my hand, his fingers warm and familiar from all those pronunciation lessons when I'd guided him through the proper mouth shapes. "You were never just anything. You were everything. I've been watching you read during lunch for months, trying to work up the courage to talk to you." Before I could respond, the door burst open and the trumpet kids stumbled in with 2 other band students, all carrying their instrument cases. They froze when they saw us holding hands, and someone's trumpet case hit the floor with a loud metallic crash that echoed through the room. "We'll, come back later," the trumpet kid stammered, already backing toward the door. The others followed quickly, whispering excitedly as they practically ran out. I could already hear them in the hallway. Parker and the book girl, holding hands, in the music room. Parker laughed. That real, genuine laugh I'd only heard during our lessons when he'd mess up a phrase so badly it became something inappropriate. Not his popular guy laugh that he used in the hallways. "The whole school's going to know about this in approximately 10 minutes, he said, squeezing my hand gently. "And you know what? For the first time in my life, I realized I didn't care about being invisible anymore." "Let them know," I said, surprising myself with how much I actually meant it. We walked to afternoon classes together, and people definitely stared. Like, full-on stopped in the hallway, dropped their books, stared. Parker kept our fingers interlaced the entire time, and when some of his soccer teammates called out to him from across the hall, he just waved with his free hand without letting go of mine. "Yo, Parker!" Parker learning an entire language in 3 weeks just to spend time with someone? I wonder what's really going on here. That's some serious dedication for a high school crush. "What's going on, man?" one of them shouted. "Just walking my girlfriend to class," he called back, and I felt my face burn but also my heart do this weird swooping thing. During chemistry, while my lab partner droned on about molecular structures, my phone buzzed. Parker had texted from his history class. "My teacher just asked why I'm smiling so much." I said I finally learned how to say something important in Japanese. She thinks I mean irregular verbs or something. I had to cover my mouth to keep from laughing out loud, earning a confused look from my physics partner. After school, we went to the same coffee shop where he used to bring me mochi during our lessons. The barista, this older woman with purple streaks in her hair, recognized us immediately and smiled knowingly. "Together this time?" she asked while making our drinks. Together, Parker confirmed, and I loved how proud he sounded. This time, instead of sitting across from each other with textbooks spread between us like a barrier, we sat on the same side of the booth. Parker practiced saying, "Kimi ga suki da," I like you, over and over until I was blushing too hard to correct his pronunciation anymore. "Teach me how to say something else," he said, playing with my fingers on the table, tracing the lines on my palm like they were hiragana characters he was trying to memorize. I thought for a moment, then taught him, "Zuto isho ni itai," I want to be with you forever. He repeated it perfectly on the first try, looking right at me with those honey brown eyes, and I completely forgot we were in public until the barista came by with free cookies for the cute couple. His mom called while we were walking to my house, and I could hear her practically screaming through the phone even though it wasn't on speaker. "I knew it," she shouted. "I told your father." I said, "Mark my words, that girl teaching him Japanese is going to be our daughter-in-law." Didn't I say that? Parker's face went bright red. "Mom, you're on speaker," he lied, even though she wasn't. "Oh, hi, sweetie," she yelled even louder. "Come for dinner Sunday." After he hung up, Parker looked mortified. "She says she's been waiting for this since she saw us dancing in my room. Apparently, she's been planning our wedding in her head. Dancing was only last week," I pointed out. "Yeah, well, she works fast. She's probably already picked out china patterns." At my front door, he seemed nervous again, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he had during our first lesson when he didn't know where to sit. "So, there's this soccer team party this weekend," he started, looking at his shoes. Do you want to go with me? As my actual girlfriend this time? Not as my tutor or friend or whatever, but like actually together? Only if you promise not to pretend you lived in Tokyo," I teased. He pulled me closer, his hand settling on my waist, and said in that soft voice that had made me fall for him during our lessons, "I promise to only speak the Japanese you taught me. Although I might tell people you're my girlfriend in both languages, just to be really clear about it." The next morning, I was just getting my books from my locker when Madison appeared beside me like some kind of perfectly contoured nightmare. She leaned against the lockers, examining her manicure with fake casualness. "So, you're Parker's new project," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "How interesting. You know he gets these little obsessions, right? Last year it was skateboarding. Bought a board, practiced for a month, then forgot about it. The year before that, photography. He must have taken 1,000 pictures before he got bored." I closed my locker and turned to face her fully. Good thing I'm not a hobby then. She stepped closer, dropping the sweet act entirely. Her eyes were cold. "You really think you can keep his attention? You're not exactly his usual type. I mean, look at you. Library girl. Do you even own anything that isn't a cardigan?" "That's kind of the point," Parker said from behind her. Madison spun around so fast her hair whipped me in the face. Her perfectly glossed lips parted in surprise. Parker, but he was already taking my hand, his jaw set in a way I'd never seen before. Save it, Madison. Come on, he said to me, leading me away from her. Sorry about her, he said once we were out of earshot, his thumb rubbing circles on my hand. She's been weird since we broke up last year. You dated for 2 years, I said. She's probably not used to seeing you with someone so different from her. That's exactly why I like you, he said, stopping in the middle of the hallway. You're nothing like her. You're real. At lunch, Parker brought Akira to sit with us, which was surreal considering a week ago I thought she was his dream girl. I wanted to properly thank you, he told her, completely sincere, for, everything. The intervention, the truth bomb, all of it. Akira grinned and said something in rapid Japanese that made me nearly spit out my water laughing while Parker looked completely lost. What did she say? He asked, looking between us. She said you're welcome, but you owe her big time, I translated, leaving out the part where she'd also called him an oblivious idiot in the most polite way possible. Parker nodded seriously. Name your price. Akira thought for a moment, tapping her chopsticks against her bento box. Introduce me to that cute girl from your soccer team, the one with the braids who always wears the vintage band tees. Parker looked shocked. Wait, you mean Sam? But she's... Akira raised an eyebrow. You thought what? That I only date Japanese girls? Or that Sam's too cool for me? We all laughed, and Parker promised to make the introduction that very afternoon. That afternoon, I found myself sitting on the metal bleachers for the first time in my entire high school career, watching Parker at soccer practice. The sun was brutal, and I'd forgotten sunscreen because of course I had. When do bookworms ever need SPF for the library? Parker kept glancing over at me between drills, this huge grin spreading across his face every time our eyes met. Parker, eyes on the ball! The soccer coach shouted after Parker completely missed an easy pass because he was too busy waving at me. I don't care if the Queen of England is in those bleachers, you keep your head in the game. The whole team cracked up, and Parker's ears went red, but he still snuck another look at me before jogging back into position. I pretended to read the book I'd brought, but honestly, watching him play was way more interesting than I'd expected. There was something about seeing him in his element, confident, focused, when he wasn't looking at me, completely at ease with his body in a way I'd never be. After practice, his soccer teammates swarmed around us before I could even get down from the bleachers. They were all sweaty and grass-stained, and I tried not to obviously hold my breath when they got close. So this is the famous Japanese tutor, one of them said, slinging his arm around Parker's shoulders. Dude would not shut up about you for weeks. Like, we'd be running plays and he'd randomly ask if we knew what kawaii meant, or how to pronounce Akira properly, another guy added, doing air quotes. He made us all practice saying it without the hard R sound. Parker's face was approaching tomato levels of red now, but he didn't deny any of it. He just grabbed my hand and squeezed it like he was saying, yeah, I was that obvious and I don't care. She's coming to the party Saturday, right? Someone asked. If she wants to, Parker said, looking at me with those puppy dog eyes that absolutely weren't fair. The team party that weekend was at one of his teammates' houses, this massive place with a pool and everything. I spent forever getting ready, changing outfits 3 times because what do you even wear to a soccer team party? I finally settled on jeans and a nice top, casual but not trying too hard. Parker picked me up, and when I got in his car, he just stared at me for a second. You look perfect, he said, and the way he said it made me believe him. The party was already loud when we arrived, music thumping, people everywhere, red Solo cups in every hand. These weren't my people. They were all confident and athletic and knew how to work a room. I felt like I had a neon sign over my head saying, doesn't belong here. But Parker never left my side. He introduced me to everyone, his hand either holding mine or resting on my lower back, making it clear I was with him. This is my girlfriend, he'd say, and each time the word girlfriend sent little sparks through my chest. You want something to drink? He asked, leaning close to my ear so I could hear him over the music. Just water, I said, and he didn't even tease me about it, just went to get it. While he was gone, a girl I recognized from the volleyball team came up to me. You're brave, she said, and I must have looked confused because she clarified, dating Parker. Every girl in school wants him. I didn't really plan it, I admitted. She laughed. The best things never are planned. Madison showed up about an hour in with her usual crew, all perfectly styled hair and coordinated outfits like they'd had a pre-party planning session. She made this big production of not looking at us, but I kept catching her staring whenever Parker would lean in to whisper something in my ear. He'd been teaching himself more Japanese phrases, apparently. Kimi no egao ga suki, he whispered, his breath tickling my ear. I love your smile. Your pronunciation is getting better, I told him, trying not to melt into a puddle right there. I've been practicing with YouTube videos, he admitted. Don't tell Akira, she'll make fun of my sources. Madison chose that moment to walk by us, accidentally, bumping into me hard enough that I would have spilled my water if Parker hadn't steadied me. Oops, she said, not even trying to sound sincere. Didn't see you there? Parker's mom already picking China patterns after 1 week of dating? That's moving faster than his Japanese lessons. At least those took 3 weeks before the big confession happened. You're just so easy to miss. Before I could respond, Parker stepped between us. Madison, that's enough. What? I said it was an accident. She flipped her hair over her shoulder. Though I don't know why you're slumming it with the library mouse when I could what? Parker's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it I'd never heard before. Date someone who only cared about my popularity? Someone who spent 2 years trying to change everything about me? The music seemed quieter suddenly, or maybe everyone around us had just stopped talking. Madison's face flushed. I was trying to help you reach your potential. No, you were trying to turn me into your accessory. Parker took my hand. She sees me for who I actually am. That's worth more than all the fake crap you cared about. We left right after that. Parker was quiet as we walked to his car, his jaw still tense. Want to go somewhere else? He asked once we were sitting in his car. I know a place that's actually fun. We ended up at this tiny park near the elementary school, sitting on swings that were definitely too small for us. The moon was was bright enough that we didn't need the streetlights to see each other. Sorry about Madison, he said, dragging his feet in the dirt beneath the swing. And sorry if the party was too much. I know my friends can be overwhelming. They were actually nice, I told him, and meant it. Different from what I expected. They really care about you. Parker stopped swinging and turned to look at me. You're different from what I expected too, in the best way. What did you expect? He thought for a moment, kicking at the wood chips under the swing. I don't know. Someone intimidating, I guess. You always looked so smart and focused when you were reading, like you were in this whole other world that someone like me couldn't access. Someone like you? You know, dumb jock, good at kicking a ball, not much else. So you made up an elaborate lie about living in Tokyo? I couldn't help but laugh. He groaned and covered his face with his hands. It seemed like a good idea for about 5 seconds. Then Akira started speaking actual Japanese to me and I just panicked, kept nodding like an idiot while having no clue what she was saying. What did you think would happen? I didn't think. He laughed at himself. I just saw you sitting there with your book and thought, this is it. This is my chance to finally talk to her. And then my mouth just started making words without my brain's permission. Wait, I said, processing what he'd just said. Finally talk to me? How long had you been wanting to? Even in the moonlight, I could see his ears turn red. Since like October? You were reading this book with a dragon on the cover during lunch and you laughed out loud at something and I wanted to know what was funny. I wanted to know what made you laugh like that. October was 6 months ago. Yeah, well, you're intimidating. You use words like furthermore in casual conversation. You read books for fun. You're smarter than half the teachers. I'm not that smart, I protested. You taught me an entire language in 3 weeks. You learned an entire language in 3 weeks. That's way more impressive. We stayed there swinging and talking until almost midnight, when Parker's mom texted asking if we were okay. Monday morning, there was a note in my locker written entirely in hiragana. Parker's handwriting was absolutely terrible. His characters looked like a kindergartner had drawn them with their non-dominant hand, but I could make out what it said. Beautiful morning, beautiful girl. It was cheesy, and his woe looked more like a deformed cat than an actual character, but I carefully folded it and put it in my wallet. In English class, we got paired up for a poetry project on metaphysical conceits. Everyone groaned when the teacher announced it, but Parker actually seemed interested. John Donne's using the compass as a metaphor for separated lovers, Parker said during our discussion, pointing to the line in the poem. Like, they're two parts of the same tool. Even when one moves away, they're still connected at the center. The teacher actually stopped walking around the room. That's exactly right, Parker. Excellent analysis. Parker looked as surprised as everyone else. After class, he seemed kind of dazed. See? I told him as we walked to his next class. Not just a dumb jock. I actually really liked that poem, he admitted. The way Don describes love as this mathematical, precise thing, but also completely beyond logic. It reminded me of trying to explain how I feel about you. I stopped walking. Did you just compare me to a metaphysical conceit? Is that good or bad? It's perfect, I said, and kissed him right there in the hallway, not caring who saw. We developed this whole routine without even discussing it. Parker would walk me to every single class, even when it made him late for his own. We'd eat lunch together every day, sometimes with Akira and Sam, who were now officially dating and disgustingly cute about it. After school, I'd do homework in the bleachers while he was at practice, and he'd drive me home after. It felt natural, like we'd been doing this forever instead of just a couple weeks. One day, Akira brought these Japanese snacks to lunch, weird Kit Kat flavors and something called Pocky that turned into a whole thing. This is the Pocky game, she explained, sticking one end of the chocolate-covered stick in her mouth. Sam, you bite the other end, and we eat toward the middle. They demonstrated, ending with a kiss when they met in the middle, and Sam's face went bright red while Akira looked extremely pleased with herself. Your turn, Akira said, tossing a box to Parker and me. We're in the cafeteria, I protested. So? Parker was already opening the box. Come on, I want to try. We were absolutely terrible at it. Parker bit too hard and broke the stick immediately. The second try, I started laughing and dropped it. The third time, we actually made it to the middle, and the kiss tasted like chocolate and strawberry. You two are gross, Sam said, but she was smiling. This from the girl who just made out with her girlfriend over a snack, Parker shot back. Akira started teaching us both slang that definitely wasn't in any textbook. This is what people actually say, she insisted, writing down phrases that made us all giggle like middle schoolers. How do you say Parker's an idiot but he's my idiot? I asked. Akira thought for a moment, then wrote something down. Parker tried to read it, sounding it out slowly. Hey, he protested when he figured it out. That's mean, but accurate, Akira said. Brutally accurate, Sam agreed. These lunches became my favorite part of the day, just the four of us, laughing and teaching each other random phrases in Japanese, acting like normal teenagers instead of the weird social dynamics that usually ruled the cafeteria. Friday night was dinner at Parker's house. His mom had insisted all week, texting me directly after getting my number from Parker's phone. She's been planning this menu for days, Parker warned me as we pulled into his driveway. I'm really sorry in advance for whatever happens. His mom opened the door before we even got to it. Finally! I've been dying to properly meet the girl who got Parker to actually study something. Dinner was an experience. Parker's dad had apparently prepared a PowerPoint presentation of Parker's baby photos, which he displayed on the TV while we ate. This is Parker's first day of kindergarten, his dad narrated, clicking to a photo of tiny Parker in a Superman cape. He insisted on wearing the cape every day until November. Dad, please, Parker groaned, covering his face. Oh, and this one, his mom grabbed the remote. This is when he decided he was going to marry his second grade teacher. I was 7, Parker protested. You wrote her a love poem, his dad added helpfully, in crayon. It said, roses are red, violets are blue, you're pretty and nice. Can I marry you? I was trying so hard not to laugh that my sides hurt. Parker looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. You know what? His mom said, studying me. You're exactly what I pictured when Parker talked about his Japanese tutor. Smart, pretty, and patient enough to deal with this one. She ruffled Parker's hair affectionately. Mom, Parker Parker whined, but he was smiling. After dinner, while his parents did dishes, they insisted we shouldn't help. Parker showed me his room properly for the first time. I'd been there during our lessons, but I'd been too focused on teaching to really look around. There was a whole stack of Japanese learning books on his desk that he definitely hadn't mentioned during our lessons. Japanese for dummies, manga for language learning, even a kid's workbook with cartoon characters. Have you been studying on your own this whole time? I asked, flipping through one of the books that had notes in his handwriting in the margins. Parker rubbed the back of his neck. Maybe. I wanted to impress you. Like, what if you said something in Japanese and I could actually respond correctly? I thought you'd think I was smart. I already think you're smart. Now you do. But before, he sat on his bed looking at his hands. I know what people think of me. Pretty face, good at sports, probably peaked in high school. I wanted you to see something more. I sat next to him, taking his hand. I do see more. I see someone who learned a language in 3 weeks, who understands poetry better than he thinks, who's kind and funny and way smarter than he gives himself credit for. He squeezed my hand. When you say it, I almost believe it. Believe it, I said, and meant it. The next week, Madison tried one more desperate play. I was at my locker between classes when I heard her voice behind me, loud enough for the whole hallway to hear. I just think it's so interesting, she was saying to her friends, though clearly performing for everyone within earshot. How some people suddenly become popular just by dating the right person. How did Parker know about metaphysical conceits when everyone thinks he's just into sports? The way he understood that compass metaphor makes me wonder what else he reads when nobody's watching. Does he secretly love poetry? Like, where was she 3 months ago? Oh right, sitting alone in the library. I turned around slowly, and the hallway seemed to hold its breath. Madison stood there with her perfectly coordinated crew, all matching expressions of fake concern. You're right, Madison, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. 3 months ago, I was reading in the library, and Parker was watching me from across the cafeteria, too nervous to talk to me. Which one of us really changed? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. Someone actually laughed. I think it was one of her own friends. He only noticed you because of Akira, she snapped, grasping for something. Anything. Actually, yeah. Parker's voice came from behind her, and she whirled around. He was standing there with some of his soccer teammates, and they all looked thoroughly entertained. Akira's the reason I finally had an excuse to talk to her. I should send her a thank you card. This is pathetic, one of Madison's friends muttered, tugging on her arm. Let's go. As they walked away, I heard another one whisper, God, Madison, just let it go already. That was the last time she tried anything. After that, she just pretended we didn't exist, which honestly was perfect. Friday afternoon, the spring dance got announced over the intercom during last period. The theme was Enchanted Garden, which sounded exactly as cheesy as you'd expect, but everyone got excited anyway. $20 says Parker asks you with some elaborate Japanese sign, Akira said as we walked out of class. He wouldn't, I said, but I was already wondering what he might do. Monday morning, I walked into the cafeteria to find Parker standing on one of the tables holding a poster board sign. The entire room was watching. The sign had dance, written in English, and below it in carefully drawn hiragana characters. Yishuni yongrimasenka? Won't you dance with me? His handwriting had improved so much since that first note in my locker. The characters were actually legible this time. Get down from there before you fall, I called out, but I was smiling so hard my face hurt. He jumped down and walked over with the sign. Is that a yes? How long did it take you to write those characters? I asked, running my finger over the hiragana. Like 3 hours. I kept messing up the last one. Yes, I said. Obviously, yes. The cafeteria erupted in a mix of cheers and groans, probably from people who'd bet against him doing something this public. Parker picked me up and spun me around, which should have been mortifying but somehow wasn't. That weekend, dress shopping turned into an unexpected group thing. Akira texted me Saturday morning. Sam and I are going dress shopping. You're coming. Not a request. I met them at the mall, where Sam was already holding about 15 dresses, and Akira was judging each one with intense concentration. Too pink, Akira declared about one. Too many ruffles, about another. You realize I'm the one wearing it, right? Sam said, but she was grinning. Yes, and I'm the one who has to look at you all night, so I get input. We spent 4 hours trying on everything. Sam ended up with this gorgeous emerald dress that made her eyes pop. Akira chose a sleek black number that was somehow both elegant and slightly dangerous. I found a deep blue dress that actually made me feel pretty, instead of like I was playing dress up. Parker's going to die when he sees you in that, Sam said as I spun in front of the mirror. In a good way? In the best way. While we were at the food court afterward, sharing a giant pretzel, Sam said something that surprised me. You know, I never really got Parker before. Like, he was just this popular guy who was good at soccer. But seeing him with you, he's actually kind of a dork, isn't he? The biggest dork, I confirmed. He made flashcards for Japanese vegetables last week. Vegetables, Sam. Who needs to know how to say eggplant in Japanese? Nasu, Akira supplied helpfully. See? Now I know it too. He's corrupting all of us with his vegetable knowledge. We were all laughing when my phone buzzed. Parker had sent a photo of himself at the formal wear store, wearing a bow tie that matched my dress perfectly. How does he know what color your dress is? Sam asked. I may have sent him a picture, I admitted. You two are disgusting, Sam said, but she immediately added, Akira, we need to go back. I need to find a tie that matches my dress for you. I don't wear ties, Akira protested. You do now. The week before the dance, Parker and I were at lunch when he said, my mom wants to know if your parents want to come over for pre-dance photos. My mom will probably cry, I warned him. She cries at everything. She cried at a commercial about paper towels last week. My mom's already bought 3 boxes of tissues, so they'll get along great. The day of the dance, I spent approximately 17 hours getting ready. Okay, 3, but it felt like 17. My mom did indeed cry when she saw me in the dress. You look so grown up, she sniffled. When did you become this beautiful young woman? Mom, please, save some tears for the actual photos. Parker showed up right on time, looking absolutely perfect in his suit with the matching matching bow tie. His mom immediately started taking pictures before we even said hello. "Mrs. Chen, let them at least get in the door," Parker's dad said, but he was already pulling out his phone too. Our parents had apparently coordinated, because my dad had set up this whole photo area in our living room with good lighting and everything. We took approximately 8 million photos. Us alone, us with each parent, us with both sets of parents, candids of us laughing at how ridiculous this all was. "One more," Parker's mom kept saying. "Just one more." Finally, Parker's dad physically removed the camera from her hands. They're going to miss the actual dance at this rate. In the car, Parker let out a huge breath. I thought that would never end. "Your boutonniere is crooked from all the hugging," I said, reaching over to fix it. "Your hair still looks perfect though. How is that possible after my mom's death grip hugs? So much hairspray. Like an environmentally irresponsible amount." The dance itself was exactly as cheesy as expected. The gym was covered in fake vines and paper flowers, with twinkling lights everywhere. It looked like a craft store had exploded, but in a weirdly magical way. "It's so tacky," Akira said when we found her and Sam by the punch bowl. "I love it." Sam was wearing the tie Akira had picked out, and they looked ridiculously good together. "We're going to win Best Dressed Couple for sure," Sam said. "There's no such award," I pointed out. "There should be." When the music started, Parker immediately pulled me onto the dance floor, even though it was a fast song. "We're slow dancing to this?" I asked as he put his arms around my waist. "We're slow dancing to everything. I don't know how to fast dance." "You're literally an athlete. Different kind of coordination." So we swayed to everything. Pop songs, hip-hop, even the one random country song that somehow made it onto the playlist. Other couples danced around us doing actual moves, but we just stayed in our little bubble. Halfway through the night, Parker leaned down and whispered in Japanese, "Kimi to odoru no ga suki. I love dancing with you. Your pronunciation is getting really good," I told him. "I've been practicing with YouTube videos. Don't tell Akira. Your secret's safe." During a break between songs, they announced the silly superlative awards they'd voted on weeks ago. Parker and I weren't expecting anything, so when they called out, "couple most likely to confuse everyone," we just looked at each other and burst out laughing. "I mean, they're not wrong," Parker said as we went up to accept the cheap plastic trophy. "It was this ridiculous thing with 2 question marks on top instead of people. We're keeping this forever," I declared, holding it up like it was an Oscar. "Obviously, it's going on my college bookshelf." After the dance, we ended up at a 24-hour drive-thru in our formal wear, eating fries in Parker's car while still wearing our fancy clothes. My feet were killing me, so I'd taken off my heels and had my legs tucked under me. "3 months ago, I couldn't even talk to you," Parker said, stealing one of my fries. "I used to practice conversations in my head. Like, what would I say if you randomly started talking to me? They were all terrible, by the way." "What kind of terrible?" "Like, hey, I noticed you like books. I also know how to read." That level of terrible. I almost choked on a fry from laughing. "That's worse than pretending you lived in Tokyo, right? At least the Tokyo thing got your attention." "You already had my attention," I admitted. "I just thought you didn't know I existed." "How could I not know you existed? You're the girl who laughed out loud at a book about dragons. You use words like furthermore in casual conversation. You color code your notes. You're impossible to miss." We stayed in that parking lot until almost 2 a.m., just talking and sharing fries and listening to music. Parker had made a playlist of Japanese songs Akira had recommended, and we tried to translate the lyrics with my phone. "This one's definitely about food," he said about one song. "It's about heartbreak, Parker." "Then why does he keep saying oishi?" "That's itoshi, beloved, not oishi, delicious." Japanese is hard. You literally learned it in 3 weeks. I learned it badly in 3 weeks. There's a difference. As summer got closer, we started making all these plans. Parker wanted to teach me to play volleyball at the beach, which seemed optimistic considering my coordination. I wanted to introduce him to Studio Ghibli movies, which he'd never seen despite studying Japanese. "We should do a marathon," I suggested one day at lunch. "All the movies, subtitles only. I'll bring the snacks," Parker offered. I know how to say popcorn in Japanese now. Parker's mom buying 3 boxes of tissues before even meeting them feels oddly specific. What made her so sure she'd need that many? The way Madison's own friends turned on her makes me wonder what they really thought of her all along. It's popcorn. That's just popcorn with a Japanese accent. Still counts. On the last day of school, everyone was signing yearbooks in that frantic way where you're trying to write something meaningful, but also quick because 20 other people are waiting. Parker handed me his yearbook with this serious expression. "Write something good," he said, "like something I'll want to read in 10 years. I thought about it for a long moment, then wrote, "Parker, thank you for the worst lie ever told in our cafeteria. Thank you for learning a language just to spend time with me. Thank you for seeing me when I thought I was invisible. But mostly, thank you for being brave enough to be terrible at Japanese. You changed everything. Your sensei and girlfriend." When I handed it back, he read it immediately, which you're not supposed to do, and his ears went red. "Your turn," he said, giving me my yearbook. What he wrote took up an entire page. It was this mix of English and Japanese, talking about how I'd changed his life by seeing more in him than just a popular athlete. At the bottom, he'd written in carefully drawn characters, "You are my light." "Did Akira teach you that?" I asked, definitely not tearing up. "Actually, no. I looked that one up myself. Took me like an hour to write it properly." That evening, we ended up at the park where we'd had our first real conversation after the party. It had become our spot, the place we went when we wanted to be alone and just talk. Parker had brought one of his Japanese manga books, and we sat on the swings trying to read it together. "This character's using really informal speech," he pointed out, proud of himself for noticing. "That's because he's talking to his friend." I knew that, he lied, and I nudged him with my shoulder. "We should do something next year," he said suddenly. "Like start a tutoring program or something. Help other kids learn languages. Only if you promise not to tell them you lived in Tokyo," I said. He laughed. "Deal, but I'm definitely telling them the real story." "Which is? That I learned an entire language just to spend time with the smartest, most beautiful girl in school, and it was completely worth it. The sun was setting, painting everything golden, and Parker said something in Japanese Japanese that I didn't recognize. What does that mean? I asked. Kimi wa boku no taiyu da, he repeated slowly. Akira taught me that one. It means, you are my son. His accent was still a little off on the taiyu part. He put too much emphasis on the first syllable, but the meaning was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And sitting there on those swings, with the sunset and the boy who learned a language for me, I thought about how different everything was from 3 months ago. How a terrible lie had turned into the most honest thing in my life. How being seen, really seen by someone could change everything. Hey, Parker said, breaking into my thoughts. What are you thinking about? Just this, I said, gesturing to everything and nothing. Us. How weird and perfect it all is. The best things usually are weird, he said, reaching over to take my hand across the space between the swings. And he was right. We were weird. The soccer captain and the library girl, brought together by a fake story about Tokyo and a signed Taylor Swift vinyl. But somehow, in all that weirdness, we'd found something real, something worth keeping. Something that would last way longer than high school, way longer than summer, way longer than either of us had imagined when this whole thing started with Parker sliding that vinyl across the cafeteria table. Turns out the best love stories start with the worst lies. Who knew? Talk about sticking the landing. Been playing word detective with you fine folks this whole time, and honestly, your company made it. Catch you next time. And like the video, it helps more than you think.